Spoiler alert, did not win. I'm better than when Bill and Holly turned up for this morning, still in their tuxes.
Yeah.
But I felt better. I don't even have that shiny BAFTA to make my head feel better.
And there's certainly more authentic bonhomie in this studio than there was perhaps that morning after the NTAs was filling.
I hear you. Ingrid did say, just go in your tux and pretend you've been up all night.
Well, speaking of authenticity or otherwise, we are going to talk about the Beckham family feud, a big story that's going on about the sort of supposed feud, which I think is definitely real, between the Beckham family and Brooklyn Beckham and his wife, Nicola. So
my God, that could not be more up your street. The first 10 minutes or so of the podcast, I can sit back, I can just sit there and just go, come on, tell me everything.
Revive.
We're then going to talk about the horror director, Eli Roth, who's got a brand new way of financing films, which I think is very, very interesting. I think it's a new way in this world where it's very hard to finance anything at all. He's got a brand new way of doing it, which I think is interesting.
And bringing up the rear will be those BAFTAs, Richard, won't they? While we discuss your experience. Well, I mean, I watched it, what it all sort of meant.
Yes, but mainly what it's like to be at one of those things, and a little bit of backstage gossip and all that kind of stuff, and what the mood is in British television. I would say by the end of the evening, fairly drunk. And also the very, very early soundings of what happened on Celebrity Traitors, which is just finished. There will be no spoilers, I guarantee you that, but the team are back, some of the celebs are back as well, and so just I'm going to tell you the mood music that I found.
I can't wait. Okay, I'll have to.
David Beckham turned 50. Brooklyn didn't show up, not even once. Behind the Instagram silence, the carefully curated captions, and the Netflix documentaries, something's broken in the Beckham family, and you're about to see why. If your child rejects your family, do you protect their peace or protect the brand you built together? Should a son owe his parents loyalty or independence? Comment what you would do. When your image is the perfect family, absence becomes a scandal. Brooklyn and Nicola skipping all of David's birthday celebrations wasn't a scheduling mishap. It was a message. The Beckhams didn't just represent a family, they marketed it. From matching outfits to magazine spreads, they sold the idea that love and unity could be packaged. But when the oldest son ghosts his father's biggest milestone, the message is clear. This family no longer fits in the same frame. That single act, skipping the party, was more than rude. It broke the fourth wall of the Beckham mythology. The son who was once the centerpiece of a global fairy tale didn't show up for the king's coronation. That's not a small thing, especially when the brand is built on appearances. It wasn't just a birthday, it was a betrayal in public.
I think it's really interesting that absolutely none of this story, which is played out in huge numbers of articles every single day currently in the tabloids and on news websites, none of that came from what we would have traditionally recognised as sort of old-style journalism, maybe a tip-off from someone in the inner circle, maybe whatever it is.
Maybe going through someone's bins.
Maybe going through someone's
phones. What we call the good old days.
What we call shoe leather stuff, okay? Now, so much entertainment journalism now comes from watching who is or isn't tagged in Instagram posts, who doesn't like certain posts, who doesn't feature in pictures. Now, remember, these are pictures that a certain type of celebrity, about which the Beckhams are kind of probably top of the tree of that type, post religiously because they have become drawn to the upsides, financial, brand, image-wise, of living out loud.
This wasn't leaked by a publicist or overheard in a Soho House bathroom. The world figured out this feud not through tabloids, but through tags, through what wasn't liked, what wasn't shared, who wasn't featured. Instagram has become the new press conference. And for families like the Beckhams, who built empires on curated moments, every post, or lack of one, becomes a statement. When Nicola skips tagging Victoria, or when Brooklyn shares a birthday post that excludes his parents, fans connect the dots. They don't need access, they have eyes. It's not journalism, it's digital forensics. What once required a journalist with sources now needs nothing more than a screenshot and a sharp memory. This feud didn't start online, but online is where it was exposed. Because in 2025, unfollowing your mother-in-law is the new public statement.
They sold every single thing, the Beckhams.
What's your value judgment on that? Because we come from a generation that we would just say, oh, God, that's so tacky, that's so gauche. But is it?
Well, I think it is, yes, because I've never had a Instagram or even a Facebook account because I'm actually mind about that. But I'm certainly alone.
If you did, it would blow up. Everyone wants to see your bookshelves. Everyone wants to see your klutzy removal guy, Pete.
Yeah, they come on. But the Beckhams really did believe in all that. And then it's interesting, they evolved past that. They became sort of too big for OK magazine, and they probably did think it was tacky. And then once they come back under the sort of aegis of Simon Fuller, who understands image rights and all sorts of things like that, and they go to America, he commodifies them in a different way. And it becomes a much more lucrative, but huge image rights deals and huge kind of licensing deals and all sorts of things. And you can see how they've evolved, and then you can see how eventually we get to David's position of his sort of self-commissioned documentary, which was a huge success, as we know, for Netflix. And Victoria is doing...
The Beckhams didn't just allow media coverage, they orchestrated it. Victoria's parents drank champagne with editors to script what photos would go public. From birth announcements to baby Brooklyn's first smile, every frame was planned. But what started as media strategy became a machine. And Brooklyn, he was the first product. Before he had teeth, he had brand equity. Now, decades later, the brand is global. There's a Netflix doc, high fashion lines, American expansion, and curated family narratives. But branding is control, and control comes at a price. What happens when the product refuses to cooperate? What if Brooklyn's absence isn't disrespect, but a rebellion against a life he never chose? Maybe he's not ungrateful. Maybe he's just tired of being part of the Beckham economy. The brand made him famous, but it also made him disappear.
It's a form of sort of mass Kremlinology, really, and there are whole sites.
Finally, we're talking about mass Kremlinology.
Finally, yeah, but it is in a way, isn't it? There's these whole sites just kind of dedicated to working out what tiny little changes in a celebrity's digital imprint mean, why they've happened. And that is, to me, a complete cultural shift in not much more than a decade. Effectively, anyone ordinary can be an Instagram sleuth and see, Romeo didn't tag that person, or why didn't that person wish Victoria happy Mother's Day? Now, there's not really another site like it, but something like Tattle Life, which is absolutely huge. I don't know if you know about Tattle Life.
I know about it. I don't spend a lot of time on it.
Tattle Life is essentially a collection of threads where people talk about people in the public eye and basically tear them down. But it's very interesting. This is how the site formally describes itself: a commentary website on public business social media accounts. And what actually that appears as is sort of obsessive threads about celebrities.
We used to obsess over paparazzi shots. Now we obsess over metadata. Welcome to the age of digital criminology, where fans become forensic analysts, dissecting emojis and timestamps to reveal the truth behind the glam. Sites like Tattle Life aren't gossip blogs. They're open source surveillance. They crowdsource suspicion. Why didn't Nicola like Romeo's post? Why didn't Brooklyn post for his mom's birthday? It's not evidence, it's interpretation. But in a world where perception is everything, interpretation becomes reality. And the Beckhams, who once curated every detail of their image, now face an army of unpaid detectives watching their every move. The irony? They built this machine. Now it's eating them alive. When you live for the public eye, eventually it starts to see too much.
I mean, when isn't there in a family? But if you commodify your family, and if you commodify how happy your family is over many, many, many years and make a lot of money out of it, suddenly those feuds become slightly more difficult to contain.
Every family fights. But when your family is your business, those fights are no longer private. The Beckhams didn't just share happy moments, they sold them. And now that illusion is unraveling. What started as a beautiful brand, matching outfits, public affection, curated holidays, is cracking under the weight of real relationships. Brooklyn isn't a stockholder in brand Beckham. He's a son. But when he steps back, he threatens everything. Because the brand doesn't know how to handle absence. Silence doesn't sell. So now the world watches, waiting for someone to post first, to blink, to break. In the Beckham family, a missed party is a PR crisis. The Beckham family promised us unity, but Brooklyn's silence tells a deeper story. A child born into a brand, a son who wants out, and parents left managing the fallout, publicly. This isn't just a family feud, it's the breakdown of a fantasy.